Hi guys, welcome to my channel. First time viewers, always welcome. I'll be discussing the Glock 19 in the 4th gen and why Glocks just aren't as perfect as they ought to be. They call it Glock perfection. Well, if that were true, why is there a 4th gen and a 5th gen? Or a 2nd or 3rd gen? Seem to be like there's a lot of gens. Like, why not get it right the first time? Well, some of it's user error and some of it's mechanical and design. So I'll be covering that in some other videos. I'm going to try to focus on one element to make these videos digestible and easy for you guys. I'm going to make them user-friendly. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about why we have 3 pins. And then we have other Glocks, like this beauty here, that have 2 pins. This used to be a 17, but it's now something to the nature of a 19. And this guy here is pretty tight to hold. This is something that a lot of people aren't willing to do to their Glocks, but I might show more of this later, but this actually feels way better than that. And if Glock made them this way, they wouldn't need to make them that way. But this was a 2nd gen, and it had 2 pins, one here and one there. Well, why is that? Why is there 2 pins on the 1st and 2nds, and then the 3rds and 4th? And I don't have a 5th, so I haven't been able to get my hands on one of those yet to be able to speak to that, but there's 3 pins. And the reason for that, there's 3 pins, is because when Glock came out, people were very undetermined about using a plastic pistol. So when they gave these to cops and military guys to play with, first thing they did is try to break it. And that's what military people typically like to do. They want to see it fail so they know how to make it succeed, to set the expectation, because if it failed for a reason. And that provides a degree of wisdom for training. So there you have it, guys. The military breaks guns. And they do it on purpose. Law enforcement also, when they presented the Glock to them, they did some things to the Glock they wouldn't do to metal frame pistols. And one of the things is this. Those are called empty slide drops. It's very brutal on a gun, and it's something you should not do unless you can't help it. In a combat situation, you do what you got to do. But all this back and forward. The recoil spring on the 19 typically is around 18 foot-pounds of force. And the slide's hard, the barrel's hard, and when it goes forward, you're smacking these hard parts together at a rate of speed. Inertia applies and all that good science and math. So what happens is, well, hold on, safe direction. There we go. All right. What happens with this we have a locking block here. The barrel hits it and sends it up in the slide. But we're seeing some stress points here. And on the 3rd, 4th, et cetera, generation, the locking block on this guy has a lot more wiggle room. And it uses this pin here to anchor it, to give it some kind of stability. Because they want it to be more flexible. They wanted this part of the locking block to be able to take more trauma without breaking the front lug that is whoa, on the previous generations. Like here on this second gen here, we got legs. See that right there? And then this guy here, this is just the slide lock. There's no extra leg there. So when you do those empty slide drops, this guy breaks. It cracks. It cracks right along the side. So the first and second gens failed that way. For people that love to slam their slides home on an empty. That's devastating on guns. Don't do it unless you have to. You know, I wouldn't do it just to, you know, be happy and, you know, clap your hands kind of thing. Because you break parts. Excuse me. And it doesn't mean this is like invincible. But when you look up here, you can see some shiny spots. Here and here. It's because when this thing flexes up and down, it hits the slide, you know. If you look, there's a shiny area here. Come on, shine for me, baby. Shine. Okay, there it is. There's one here. It's still kind of new-ish, but there we go. Just watch the light trail across it. You know, it's not the frame rails. It's the locking block kissing it right here and right there. The way the light glints off it. Take your time so you can see it. So what that means is that, you know, when you're shooting this thing, this part's moving. And, you know, it's making contact with the slide. So when it comes back like that, and, you know, you shoot a lot of hot loads and what have you, pressures that you probably shouldn't be shooting on a Glock, you should probably just shoot standard pressure ammo. Because when you start going to these plus P, plus, whatever, yeah, I'm being facetious. But anything beyond plus B, you're going to run the risk of breaking this pin here. This one, this little bitty one here, that's designed to help alleviate that trauma from going in and out of battery. You know, the cycle on a 19 is not as long as a 17. So I'd imagine the 17 would have more trauma, having more rearward travel and forward snap to it. But these guys too, the frame rails on a Glock are just bent sheet metal and they're suspended into plastic. So these guys flex. See, the frame flexes because this and this are not attached. They're floating around in the frame of plastic. So what that ends up doing is when you start seeing this guy here and that guy there, what you're seeing here is not the locking block. These little half circles. What that is, the second gen, is that these corners here are like, every time it hits, they're spreading. That. It's like swimming. Every time the slide smacks, boom, boom, boom. So what ends up happening is that you get your half circle wear marks, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly normal. You'll get that in the 4th and 5th gen. The more you shoot them, it's not a big deal. It's perfectly fine. So the empty slide drops is very traumatic on a handgun. And you look at these guys. Well, this one here's got a lug in the front. So there's only one pin. There's not a second one. These guys used to break. And that's why in the 3rd gen, they came out with the 3-pin Glock design so that the locking block can float. And it doesn't break like the 1st and 2nd gens did. What breaks on these guys is this little pin. But if this guy were to break, it's not going to shut you down. The gun will continue to run, and you won't even know it's in 2 pieces until you notice that there's a break or a pin starts to kind of walk out a little bit. But it doesn't usually happen on a Glock because, the tight fit of the plastic, it just stays put. So when it gets time to clean this thing, you're doing a thorough clean, you push that pin out, come out in 2 pieces, you know that pin's broke. And breaking pins is more common on the 40 calibers than any other caliber Glock. For some reason, the 40 is like really powerful on this this design. So that's why you have a 3-pin. The 3-pin allows more float for the locking block, and so it doesn't break, and it eliminates the possibility of a serious problem that the 1st and 2nd gens have. And so thanks, Glock, you actually improved. I like that a lot, and you should too. And which also changes the design of the slide release. On a 2nd gen slide release, it's a little bit more playful than the 3rd and 4th gen. You might notice there's no triangle here, like you see on the 1st and 2nd one. There's a triangle right here. It's where this little spring points to the spring, but there's no 3rd pin there. So in this video, I hope you can understand why there's a 3-pin design and how they've moved from the 2-pin design. The parts tend to last longer if you do a lot of empty slide drops. And a lot of trainers teach you to do that, which is incredibly idiotic. But let me show you what can happen if you decide to be one of those happy and you know it, slam your slide guys. What we're seeing here is we're seeing the slide impact on the barrel hood. Eventually, this thing will burr up. This is still relatively healthy, new, nothing's harmed, but we're seeing a level shine here, which is okay. But if I were to continue to do that, like I was saying, I didn't hurt the gun at all. If I continue to do that or incorporate it into my habits, what's going to end up happening is this surface here is going to become irregular. And when that happens, the gun won't shoot center. It'll shoot off, off center of the sights. Typically, Glocks shoot left. If I hold this barrel really straight, and if your eyes are good, and this isn't an optical effect of the lens, you can actually see this barrel's bent to the left. And it is. It's not straight. Because probably the way that they made the polygonal rifling, or maybe it just relaxed set that way. Under load, that's what metal does. It likes to chill and take a break to the area of least resistance. Nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make it any less accurate. It just means that you're going to have to adjust your sights. And you really should. So, you also might notice the front sight here is not straight as well. It cants to the left a little bit. It's more like, if you look at this like a clock, it's not like a 12 and 6. It's a little bit like this. It's a little bit like a off the 12 and off the 6 going this way. And then your rear sight on these guys, this side here, should be a little bit wider than this side. Bring in the rear sight this way. No, that way. So, you could align your barrel to the the point of impact on your sights. So if you ever see a Glock sight that's perfectly straight here, you can expect that this guy here is going to be like way off to the right side. Glock shoot left of center, and hate to break it to you, that's the reality. If you ever bore sight on one of these, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So when you do those empty slide drops, what happens sometimes is the wiggle of the barrel, the float rather, the corners can land themselves in strange places and create impact marks, such as you see right here. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Oh, my beautiful gun. Well, if you don't do empty slide drops, you don't have to worry about it. That's what you call damage. Who would ever think that would happen? But it's not a big deal. It hasn't harmed anything. It doesn't make it any less reliable. But that's what happens. And then we see over here a shiny spot from the barrel hood bite. You might notice that it's beveled and the barrel's beveled. It wasn't like that on the first and second gens. They were pretty square cut. And that's an improvement. That's a step in the right direction. But I haven't harmed anything at all. And I would not recommend doing that at all. Don't do any empty slide drops, because you could see we have here is still healthy. There's nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't make my gun any less valuable. But if I was going to be buying a gun, I wouldn't be happy seeing that. This was a used gun, so it had it on there. I knew exactly what that was when I saw it. It's from empty slide drops. Also, it causes a lot of irregular vibration on this part of the slide, and it'll get shiny. You don't want to malform that, and you don't want to malform this square cut here, because if you do that, the gun won't shoot straight, or it won't maintain a zero because of the amount of chatter and float from doing empty slide drops. So don't do it. But if you do it, because that's what your training teaches you to do, you can rest assured, and believe that your gun's perfectly fine. It's not going to cause a problem unless you continue to do it. But that's exactly the reason why for the 3-pin design. The second gens and first gens, they couldn't handle it. The locking blocks would break on them. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Second gens were pretty rough cut. And the barrel that this guy came with, I got rid of because it didn't cradle center, because somebody did a whole ton of empty slide drops. And when you look at the hood on this guy here, well, there we go. There's my Q-tip pointer. We can see there's a lot of transfer on the micro finish from the slide onto the barrel. Stainless has got certain properties. It's not like gun steel. It tends to like pock and crush and pop if you maybe it was a screw and you just tighten a sucker down, you're more likely to pop it than something that's steel. Steel will shear, but Stainless has a particular set of qualities that it's okay as a barrel, but you know, anyway, that's one of the things that you're seeing right there, is it pocks and it galls, and what we're seeing here is the transfer from the slide. And I didn't do too many empty slide drops on this guy. This is a barrel I picked up for like 50 bucks at a gun show or something, or a shop. And I have no idea who made it, but it's not a match grade barrel. You guys out there, when you hear these marketers tell you, oh, it's a match grade barrel, no such thing. This is a national match barrel, NM, which means that the inner dimensions are tighter than OEM, and that's it. There's no such thing as a match grade barrel. Garbage talk. But anyway, what the empty slide dropping had done on the 2nd gen is it made this area misshapen. And you can tell right here, it's got cut bites from the cutting bit. Whoever machined this, the metal was probably stuck to the cutting bit, and it was probably dull, so it tore more material out. You machine this out there, you already know what I'm talking about. But that's one of the indicators that you might have a 2nd gen, is how terrible this breech face is on your slide. Doesn't make it any less reliable or any less accurate, but mine was misshapen, you know, because of, you know, excessive empty slide drops. And what we're seeing here, this shine right here, is where the barrel hits before it slides up after hitting the locking block. And we got a nice square there. I had to stone it, and it's because some slide happy and you know it kind of guy did a lot of empty slide drops. And what we're seeing here is that same shiny spot. Got a nice white line. There's nothing wrong with that. This is healthy, and this is as good as it gets. But because there wasn't a round in there guiding that barrel back, you know, it ended up you know, missing. The hood ended up, you know, striking the here and there. It's not a problem. It's not, you know, the slide's not trash. You know, it's not a reason to sell the gun off either, because if you continue to shoot and you like to shoot Glock, you're going to run into that same thing. So don't get too disappointed, you know, but don't continue to do it. So that's going to conclude the reason for this video, to impress upon you the reason why they would have moved to like a 3-pin design that's more flexible than the 1st and 2nd gen 2 pins. And the sole reason is because they had to idiot-proof the Glock from these guys that are just, you know, slide happy and they know it, smash your barrel kind of people. So there you have it. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, mind you, there's going to be other videos that's going to talk a little bit about the other features and particulars of the 4th gen and the evolution up to the 4th gen. So you might want to check those out. All right. Well, cheers, guys. You just you have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next video.